Hello, boys. It is me. This is going to be a Frost Maiden Sorceress. If you guys remember, quite a while ago, I made a, I did a boa week, and then I kind of led everyone to believe I was going to make an Amazon boa week, but I didn't. It was a Sorceress boa week with all boa type variants. Now, one of them I released during that week was quite an outdated ice enchantress hybrid thing. It was shit. It was not good at all. I've been trying to fine-tune it a bit more in a sense where I don't feel like I need to lean into enchant and other types of damage, and how much cold focus can I just drill directly into this build and make it feel like a cohesive thing. So I've come up with a type of hybrid ranger which works kind of well, so hear me out. So how it is going to work is we're using the Ice Greatbow. This thing, 25% chance to cast level 22 Frost Nova on striking. So that's going to be giving us Frost Nova, right? With the minus res, we're going to max out all the synergies in our cold spells, and that's going to be dealing well over 1,000 and 1,200 damage each time that procs. Very good for AoE, and it's good damage inside the packs as well, because Frost Nova pierces just like Nova does in general, okay? So on top of that, what we have on Ice is we have a massive chunk of plus cold skill damage. So while we're shooting with Frost Novas, it's not quite enough just to maintain a build just with that alone. We're going to be using Frozen Orb intermittently between the cast delay to shoot and proc Frost Novas, but to maintain Frozen Orb too. So it's still within the same theme, and there's so much plus skill and minus res damage on here where Frozen Orb slots in kind of perfectly. So let's go through the stat, skills, and gear, and then we'll go through it, boys. Nah, bugger, I won't. I'm gonna do some gameplay first. Suck it. So let's put Chilling Armor on. It'll do this. We'll do that. We'll do enchant. Energy shield is at 77, and then we switch back. We're at 1720. Resistances are not too bad either. This is players 1. The crowd control from this is so nice. No, we don't have any pierce on yet. That's something I was going to get to in a second. I've got arachnids at the moment. I found from playing and testing that I didn't really need too much pierce. It depends on where I'm kind of farming, you know. Pretty straightforward. Not the most exciting place to show, but well, you know, we can move on. We can move on. So let's put the gameplay up to P3, we'll go somewhere else really quick, and then we'll circle back and show the gear. Because I imagine a few people are getting a little bit sad. Billy, show the gear. We want to see. Shut up. Gameplay first. Gameplay. So you can see down the bottom, you've got a global cooldown for Frozen Orb. So in between then, we can still get off about 2.5 shots. Pretty nice. And this way, I feel like we can still keep it within the cold theme for the build without having to rely on investing majorly into like just enchant damage and fire mastery, or switching to something like a Kuko, and I don't know. I just wanted to keep it full cold damage. The plus % from ice is actually really good for Frozen Orb. Really good. If you look at things like Death Fathom, Nightwings, you know, people usually go for that for high cold % damage. So, although it seems a little bit odd that we're casting as well as shooting, I feel like it complements quite well. You can see some of the Frost Novas proc there as well. I'm going to clear this here, and then we'll go through some of the gear, eh, boys? Alright. So, stat, skills, gear, and then we'll get into some gameplay. So, strength is 121. That's the minimum that you need to wield a great bow. You can change up the base if you want, but it's not really necessary. There's a few different options for elite bases. Great bow is fine, okay? Like, it's an elite base, decent physical damage. There's leech on it anyway. You want decent damage for that, might as well. But the requirements are less. You can go for a diamond bow or like a razor bow, but you need to invest slightly more in certain requirements, okay? we'll move on. Dexterity 169. I put a little bit of extra in here just because I wanted a bit more attack rating with my enchant on top and everything. It's not necessary. On here there is ignore target's defense, and bear in mind, boys, we have extra attack rating from the Fanaticism Mercenary. We also have Inner Sight, which procs very consistently. Level 33, 18 yards, enemy defenses minus almost 2,000, okay? So we may not need as much as you might seem with this, okay? I could probably take points out if I respec it. Now, Vitality is 110. I like to have around, like, 100-ish, particularly like if I'm not fully invested into Energy Shield, which we can't be with this. We've got 240 into Energy with Energy Shield, as I showed before, was only 77 on Switch. There's 76. We lost our Battle Command. So, skills. 1 Point Wonders all the way down to max out Blizzard and Frozen Orb. These are both synergies of Frost Nova. That's what we need to proc that synergy. Okay? And Cold Mastery, I put my excess in here. This might be a bit more than I need, but it doesn't matter. Okay? So having thick Cold Mastery is enough, and that in conjunction with our Cold Sunder is we don't really need Infinity, which is nice, so that frees up the Mercenary. The other skills we have is 1 Point Wonders. We've got Static. Energy Shield is base 5 with Max and Telekinesis first. And I've opted for using Enchant a bit more. Okay? So I could drop the Enchant and drop this even more and then just max out the Energy Shield. That is probably a very good option and something I could try. But for the rest of the gear, boys, we've got the plus 30 cold skill damage, which does roll up and down on the ice. But so that's what you want to be looking for the most. Fuck the other skills. You want to be going just for that. We'll kill these bozos while I'm talking. So, Night Wings, we have a plus 5 facet in there. As much cold percent as you can get. You prioritize that with this build. On the Almost Robes, we have the same. We have 20%, which is rounded up from another facet. The plus skill on here, you can really choose what you want to do. I just chose Energy Shield because it saves me switching out another thing, and it helped out just to give me a bit more survivability. But that's up to you. So it's kind of free. The reason why I didn't choose a facet plate with life is because I really wanted the little extra stats on there with the cast rate, and I felt like Energy Shield was more with it too, you know? And we only really care about the plus percent. The minus res doesn't matter to us, so I don't really care about having a plate. So, over to the amulet, we just want something with cast rate and good skills. This is a placeholder, don't wet yourself, boys, okay? Moving on. This is another placeholder, don't wet yourself as well, okay? We have an Arachnids here. We can switch this out for a Razor Tail, which I can get. I might actually grab that now since I'm rambling. So, obviously, a little bit more Pierce. That is going to allow us to chance to proc more of our Frost Novas. So let's switch that in and then we'll come back, okay? We also have these gloves. So basic crafted safety gloves always roll with knockback. Extremely underrated. If you watch some of my earlier content, I kind of yap about these a lot, but anything that's ranged, this is very underrated still. Like there's certain builds that do use it, you've probably seen it, but it is so handy. With the crowd control from Holy Freeze, the Frost Novas, and adding a bit of knockback on there too, it's beautiful, okay? Like an ideal stat here would be Dexterity, you can get Mana Steal, but honestly, all you really want, boys, is increase attack speed. You get the 20, we're good, okay? We've got Raven Frost on there, and then we've got Trekkies on the side. On Switch, we do have the CTA, I showed that before when I buffed, so I got Chilling Armor and Energy Shield on that base. Down here, Torch Annihilus, Sunder, plus Cold Skillers to amp up the Frozen Orb and the Mastery, and then I've got Attack, Rating, and Life, okay? Mercenary, really quick, because I want to get into some gameplay, is Fortitude. We've got Cure, just to help get rid of curses and things, and Poison, and then Faith, Grand Matron, Inner Sight, Exploding Arrow, because we don't need a Cold Aerosol, because we're doing that ourselves, boys, alright? Here we go. So I got my Razor Tail on now, so I can switch through and pierce a little bit more. So casting, being able to cast these massive Frozen Orbs in between shooting and knocking enemies back in range is really quite cool as an option. Really cool. It works quite nicely in different areas, just just to keep everything away. And it's so nice how you can teleport as well with your mercenary and keep them back. Yes, your frozen orbs are stronger than just your single arrow shots, but you can't maintain consistent throws with frozen orb. There's a pause in between. So, what are you going to do in between, boys? Pick your nose? No, I'd rather shoot 3 shots of this and try and get some extra damage off, and also to proc some Frost Novas. That's what I like to do. A very safe build, a very fun option too if you're just getting bored of like some different variants, or like just Enchantress in general, right? Demon Machine and Kuko, it's always the first thing that comes to mind if you're putting a bow on a Sorceress. This is something that you don't really see, for good reason, because it's kind of weird and it's very hard to min-max with cold damage. But you can make it work, boys. You can make it work. Change it into a hybrid, give yourself the option of casting a few things. So, if you use Blizzard on this, without many synergies, we still do 3,000 damage, which is quite a little bit, you know? Like, if we just use Blizzard here, we can probably clear a little bit of this. 1 frozen orb, we can still get things done without shooting. Decent shots. Alright, let's go in and do some pits runs. There we go. So we can have Blizzard up at the same time, we can have Frozen Orb intermittent between shooting, and keep that damage output really high for our cold damage. You want enemies to stay at range for your Frozen Orbs, obviously. You don't want anyone in your face hitting you. But also you want to keep enemies back underneath your Blizzard when they're trying to run forward. So the knockback complements that quite nicely. As you can see right here, we can cast and stay at range, knock back and keep them stunned just underneath. I love a good knockback. I love even just putting it on the mercenary if you like. Instead of going for something like a cure, you can just put knockback on there instead, you know? So you could get a giant skull with 2 sockets, you can put 15 increased attack speed jewels in there for the mercenary or yourself, and put 2 facets in there to get 10 if you're not going for something like a Nightwings. That's absolutely an option you could do, and change out the gloves, you know? You could even do Hell Tusk for yourself to get knockback, you can put that on the mercenary too. I would highly recommend knockback on this build if you're trying it. Very nice, very safe. Such a good option. Might need some more arrows, boys. Ooh. No energy shield. Single shots without using Frozen Orb still does good damage. Nice, boys. That's about it. I think that was a cute little run, to be honest. I'm happy with that, finishing it there. So this is the Frost Maiden Sorceress, I guess, boys. It is possible. It is possible to find enough cold damage to make it work. You've got Ice, which has 30%. With Nightwings and something like Ormus, you have a shit ton to really benefit just using Frozen Orb as an alternate. Really good option. If you don't mind something that's like a hybrid to give yourself a break, you want to shoot something in between while throwing Frozen Orbs, cool. If you think it's a waste of time and you want to shoot something else instead of chuck on a Demon Machine, or just go full Frozen Orb, but whatever. We make thematic stuff here sometimes, so I thought this was a significant upgrade from the first version, and I'll take that as a dub, alright? See you, boys.